In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up your Pinterest advertising campaigns correctly. Now, keep in mind, in future videos, I'll be walking through with you step by step in my own Pinterest advertising account how to actually set up from scratch your first or your next Pinterest advertising campaigns. But the following kind of diagrams and graphs that I'm going to show you are going to kind of help give you an overview and something to reference back to helpfully make things a little bit better organized. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So first, the way that Pinterest advertising is set up, and this is similar also with Facebook ads, with Google ads, with Amazon PPC advertising, and other digital advertising platforms, is you kind of have three main groups, okay? You have your campaign, your ad group level, and then your ad level. So you have kind of three different levels: campaign, ad group, ad, okay? And basically what these kind of mean, right, is your campaign, you're selecting your objective. Do you want to drive traffic, conversions? Do you want to get views, right? There are multiple different objectives. I'm going to show you which objectives to choose and all of that, which is pretty straightforward, but that's kind of your campaign level, just your overall kind of top of the level. Then next we get into the targeting, which is your ad group. This is where we select specific keywords, interests, language, gender, your bid, all of that, all the targeting side of things. And then lastly, we have your ad section, which is going to be your creatives. Okay, this is what your audience is ultimately going to see. Okay, so we have kind of the campaign, the overview with the objective, the ad group. We're going to select kind of who is going to ultimately see our ads or pins that we're promoting. And then lastly is the actual ad itself. Okay, so that's just kind of the overview. But again, it'll make more sense once we actually go through in future videos. And then in terms of setting up your campaigns, this is my personal strategy. This is the best strategy that I have found yet. And if anything changes, of course, I'll be making update videos in the future. However, with every kind of Pinterest advertising effort, you want to set up two separate campaigns. And by the way, you can have more than two campaigns. This is just kind of the base or the essence or in the overall structure that I would consider that you follow. Whether you just set up two campaigns or multiple, you want to kind of start off with just these two campaigns just to begin. Okay, so the two campaigns are going to be your keyword campaign and your interest campaign. Okay, and like I said, you can have multiple of these type of campaigns, but these are the kind of the two essential campaigns. So for your keyword campaign, it's going to be really, really simple setup. So you're going to have your campaign, right? Pretty straightforward. You're going to set that up, your objective. Okay, then you're going to have one ad group, and then that one ad group will have two different pins. Okay, because when you set up your Pinterest advertising any campaign, you have the ability to select more than one pin. Okay, what a lot of advertisers do who don't really know any better and just kind of playing around themselves will choose only one pin to promote. Where what happens is when you choose two pins to promote, one pin may perform better and get better results than the other, and you would have no idea which one would perform better. So generally, whenever I'm running any kind of Pinterest advertising campaign, I always like to utilize usually two pins. If I have a really large budget, then maybe I'll use more. However, even if you have a large budget or a smaller budget, I recommend kind of sticking with two so you can clearly see which of the two are winners. When you start adding in too many pins or too many ad groups, for example, to a single campaign, and you don't have enough budget, it's going to be difficult to really identify which is the winner because there's not going to be enough data collected. However, even with smaller budgets, you can kind of start off with two, and within basically, you kind of run for 1 month to 2 months, look back at your analytics, which I'll show you how to do as well in future videos, and see which pin performed better, and then move forward kind of with that pin, and then maybe switch out the pin that didn't perform as well, and test a new one. So you kind of, you're testing pin A and pin B. Let's say pin B performs better, gets more, ultimately generates more sales or whatever your objective is. Great. We kind of turn off pin A, we get rid of it, and then we put in a new pin for pin A, and then kind of test again, and do that every 30 days to 60 days. Okay, so that's your keyword campaign. You're gonna have one ad group and then two pins for that ad group, and I'll show you how to kind of do all this later. Just something to keep in mind and reference. All right, and to give a little bit more of a specific example, you see the campaign right here. We're going to put in our keywords in the ad group section. Okay, so with Pinterest advertising, you have the ability in the ad group section to target both keywords and interests. Okay, I recommend, this is why we have two separate campaigns. One campaign, this keyword campaign, we're going to target our keywords and no interests. And in our other campaign, we're going to target interests, but no keywords, okay? Because, and the reason for that is, what I have found based on my own experience, and I used to run all this together, keywords and interests, together in one ad group in one campaign, is I found that interests on Pinterest tend to generate a lot more, sales, impressions, clicks, data. It gets a lot more kind of results faster, and a lot more, will eat up more of your budget. Where with your keywords, I found that tends to be, at least right now, for a lot of niches that I'm kind of advertising in, tend to be a little bit less results. It can still be very, very profitable, but because of that, right, maybe for your keyword campaign, you're willing to spend, for example, 20 cents, 30 cents, 50 cents a click, where you're only willing to spend, let's say, 11 cents a click for your interests. If everything was mashed together, you can't separate that out. You can't say, hey, Pinterest, I want my keywords to spend, I'm just making this up, 50 cents a click, where my interests, I want 11 cents a click. It's going to just set, you're going to kind of select one bid, and it's going to apply to everything. So that's why we're separating things out, is for bid control. Because usually I have a higher bid for my keyword campaign than for my interests. Because with keywords, you're able to target basically someone goes onto Pinterest, they type in very, very specific keywords, and you can get your pin to show up right in front of them. And these are people that with high purchase intent, or whatever intent that you have for your objective, searching for keywords actively on Pinterest. Boom, that's really, really powerful. And I'm willing to spend more usually because I'm able to get even better ROI from them. So that's why I'm willing to spend more. Where with my interests, still a really great targeting technique. And that's where the bulk of my spend usually goes. However, with interest, a lot of this is algorithmic, which means that Pinterest looks at kind of topics and interests of this particular user, and then serves ads to them. For example, let's say I'm selling some kind of baby product. Let's say it's like baby formula. I'm just making this up. Well, maybe the Pinterest user has already bought baby formula and they're not really interested right now, and then but they're still interested in the category. They're just not interested right now. Where if you were targeting keywords, they're obviously interested right now because they're searching right now. If that makes sense. So with keywords, you're able to kind of get your pin in front of the user right when they need it. Where with interest, it can still happen, and you still do, but you're also getting in front of people that maybe it's not the best timing for them at that specific moment, and because of that, I like to have usually a little bit lower bids to start off with. So again, keywords a little bit higher bids, interest a little bit lower bids, and that's the reason for doing this. And then just kind of final example, just kind of really clarify, I apologize. I know I'm kind of covering up this over on the right-hand side, but we have your keyword campaign. Then let's say for your keywords, example could be, pacifier, baby products, whatever it might be, right? Just your long list of keywords, all those keywords are gonna go right here in this ad group. This is just one random example of a keyword. And then we have our two pins. Let's just say one of our pins has a white background, and the other one that I'm covering up here, maybe it's a lifestyle image with, kind of like a lifestyle background of your, baby using your product or whatever it might be. And those are just for whatever reason, those are the two pins that we're deciding to test, okay? So this is kind of a more realistic example, but hopefully it helps. And yeah, like I said, what I'm covering up right now, that says lifestyle. So it's white background versus kind of a lifestyle image or video that you're using for your pin that you're promoting. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, let me know, but hopefully that's pretty straightforward for the keywords. And then now that we kind of understand the keyword campaign, it's gonna be kind of fairly similar with the interest campaign with a little difference, okay? So with the keyword campaign, we had one campaign, one ad group, and then two ads. With the interests campaign, you'll have multiple ad groups, which means you can have just one ad group or 5, 10 different ad groups or even more potentially. And how it works is you'll have your campaign, right? Your interest campaign. Next, you'll have multiple ad groups, like you see here. In this case, we have two ad groups. We have ad group A and ad group B, okay? Each ad group is going to be a different interest, okay? So and I'll give you an example in the next slide. And then each ad group is going to have pin A and pin B, okay? Now, this doesn't mean that we have 4 different pins. This means we have 2 different pins that are being used in each ad group, okay? So, for example, pin A is going to be used for ad group A, and pin A is going to be used for ad group B. Pin A is going to be used for ad group C, and so on for however many ad groups that you have. So it's one pin. You don't create a bunch of different pins. It's still 2 pins, and those 2 pins are being used in each ad group, okay? Again, still testing to see which pin is going to perform better. And by the way, these 2, pin A and pin B, these are the same pin A and pin B. You can kind of see it here, for our keyword campaign. So these are just 2 pins that you create, really simple. They're just being used in multiple places, okay? I know it can kind of seem a little bit complicated, which is why I want to create this diagram. So you have campaign, you have, in this case, 2 ad groups, and you just kind of get started there, pretty straightforward. And each ad group is going to be a different interest, and then each of those ad groups is going to have 2 different pins that you're A/B testing. To give a little bit more of an example, here we go. We have the campaign, we have interest A and then interest B. Those are our 2 different ad groups. And let's say for our interest ad group number 1, we're targeting the diaper interest. So everyone on Pinterest who has expressed interest in the topic of diapers, that's what we're targeting with our ad group A. And then with ad group B, let's say we're targeting people with the interest of baby food, okay? And then for our pins that we're promoting, we're using our pin with a white background again, our pin with a lifestyle background for the diaper ad group, and we're also using the pin with a white background and the lifestyle background for baby food as well. And by the way, it's unlimited how many ad groups you want to include. I have certain campaigns where I have 1 ad group for my interest campaign, and I have others where I have about probably 7 or so. So it really depends on your niche. There's certain niches, especially in this case, baby. There's a lot of different interests for baby. With others, it might be a little bit more narrow and maybe a little bit more difficult to target, so you may have fewer. And just like how we're A/B testing the pins, how we're kind of testing to see which pin A or pin B is going to perform better, the exact same thing, and it might be even more powerful, is with your ad groups, okay? So we're kind of doing that where we have 2 separate campaigns, and we're trying to see, are our keyword campaign or is our interest campaign going to perform better? But then also within that, which interest is going to perform better? Because you might find that targeting the diapers ad group is killing it. It's highly profitable. It's getting great results. But the baby food ad group is not really performing that well. And maybe what you do is you turn off the baby food group. Where again, think about this: if you had 1 ad group, and that 1 ad group you were targeting diapers, baby food, baby formula, whatever else it might be, baby shower, all of these different things in the baby category. And you may say overall, oh, it's generating okay results, but it's not really that profitable. Well, guess what? If you were to break out, instead of lumping them all in 1 ad group, you have different ad groups for each interest, then you can clearly see over a 30-day period or 60-day period, wait, This ad group is generating sales. This one is not. So we're going to keep this one going. Maybe we're going to increase, and I'm going to talk more about that in the optimization section, which is coming very soon. And then with the other, you might turn off the other ad group that's not generating any sales or any results. Okay, so that's the reason for doing this. I know it seems a little bit complicated, but really, to simplify everything, what we're doing is we're breaking things out. Right, the more that we lump things together, the less control. The more that we break things out, the more control. And generally, more control is better. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to see what's getting results, what's working, and we're just kind of shooting in the dark and kind of just throwing our money in the air and hoping that it works. So the whole point, obviously, is profitable Pinterest ads, not just setting up Pinterest ads. So hopefully this makes sense. This should make a lot more sense once I actually dive into my own account and show you how to set up step-by-step campaign, ad group, ads, or pins in this case, all the way through. But if you have any questions about this or any future video, let me know in the Q&A section, and hope this was helpful. Let's go ahead and get into the next video. Before we're ready to really set up our first campaign in Pinterest advertising, we need to understand a few concepts. And one of those concepts is keyword match types and search queries. And specifically in this video, I'm going to cover exactly what the exact, phrase, and broad match types are. And the next video I'll actually cover what negative match types are. It's honestly really simple. It may take a second to kind of get this all in your head because it can seem a little bit kind of overwhelming at first, but really it's a quite simple concept. So first, before we understand keywords, we need to understand what a search query is, specifically on Pinterest. So a Pinterest search query is literally anything that someone types in to the Pinterest search bar. Okay, in this example, we have the term baby shower decor. Someone goes onto Pinterest and they type in baby shower decor into the search bar. That is a search query. The term baby shower decor, that's a search query. Okay, search query is anything that someone types in. And basically what we do with Pinterest advertising, like I explained previously in a little bit of detail, is we can tell Pinterest, hey Pinterest, here's our pin, and we want to pay to promote this pin to a specific audience, right? Maybe people that have specific interests in certain categories, certain demographics, but then also for certain keywords, okay? So people type in certain keywords into Pinterest, that's a search query. So we're basically telling Pinterest, hey Pinterest, here's the type of search queries that we want to show up for, if that makes sense. So it's not specifically, here's the keywords we want to show up for, here's the search queries we want to show up for. They're kind of overlap. That's what kind of makes it confusing. But again, and this will make more sense in the next slide when we talk about match types. This is where match types come into play. So basically, we're telling Pinterest not what keywords we want to show up for, but what search queries we want to show up for. Okay? Hopefully this makes more sense. Again, of course, you can always ask questions, but hopefully this kind of clears things up here. So when on Pinterest, we can insert a certain keyword into the Pinterest advertising platform, which I have a whole tutorial kind of at the end of this module after we cover everything that we need to in order to set up our first campaign. And once we get to that stage, right, I'll show you kind of how to do that, but you have the ability to target, again, certain keywords. And you can target these keywords in different match types. What are match types and how does this work? Okay, so there's specifically the exact match type, phrase match type, and broad match type. Okay, so let's say we are selling canoe paddles and we want to target people on Pinterest who are searching for canoe paddles. Okay, we have 3 different options. So a lot of people, this is the misconception, is that when you type the word, you tell Pinterest, Pinterest asks you basically, hey Sumner, what keywords do you want to appear for? And people think that when I type in canoe paddle, I can only show up for the term canoe paddle. That's not the case. Okay, and that's why this is very critical to understand. So let's say that I want to show up, so I want to tell Pinterest I only want to show up for the term canoe paddle. So when someone types in canoe paddle and only canoe paddle, I want my pin to be eligible to be shown to that person because it's very, very specific. I only want to show up when someone types in canoe paddle. This would be known as the exact match type. So I want to enter this keyword as exact match. That means I'm telling Pinterest, I only want to show up for this exact keyword. So when someone types in this exact keyword, into the search bar, right? Their search query is canoe paddle. That's the only time I want to show up. That's exact. It's the most kind of simple to understand. Again, it's basically telling Pinterest I only want to show up for this exact term when someone types in this exact term into the search bar. Okay, so what you do in this case is you would take the keyword, right, that we have this in the keyword column. We take the keyword canoe paddle, right, and we enter it with brackets in front and behind. Okay, this is the symbol that we enter in on the advertising platform. In order for Pinterest to understand the match type. So basically, if we were to just, and I'll talk about this in a second, but if we were just to include the word canoe paddle with just the word, so there's no brackets or no characters before or after, just the word canoe paddle, well actually, Pinterest is going to show our ad, and in my it's a little bit kind of devious in a way, because a lot of new advertisers aren't aware of it, that you'll actually show up for a lot of loosely related keywords relating to canoe paddle. So you don't just show up for canoe paddle, right? So when someone types in canoe paddle, you may show up for that, but you also show up for other keywords like kayak paddle, canoe equipment, etc., which may not be advantageous for you. Okay, so I just kind of want to make you aware of that. Again, this might be one of the most confusing parts of the module. So I do apologize. Hopefully this makes sense, but we'll keep kind of grinding through, and hopefully this will make a little bit more sense. So when you want to only show up for one specific keyword or one specific type of keyword, you can have multiple keywords, right? But for those specific exact keywords, you want to make sure that you have a bracket before and after the keyword when entering those keywords into the Pinterest advertising console. Okay, so that's exact match. Number two, we have phrase match. Okay, what phrase match is we enter in the word, let's say canoe paddle. This means that we're eligible to show up for any phrase that has the word canoe paddle in it. So remember, with exact match, we only show up for that exact phrase. Okay, with phrase match, we show up for any phrase that has the term in the phrase. So in this case, we're able to, if we target canoe paddle as phrase match, so before we targeted canoe paddle as exact, in this example, we're targeting canoe paddle as phrase match, we're eligible to show up for terms like canoe paddle, big canoe paddle, short canoe paddle, red canoe paddle for, for outdoors, or for women, for men, whatever it might be, right? So as long as the word canoe paddle in this example is in the phrase, we're eligible to show up. Okay, so basically we can show up for search queries as long as that search query has canoe paddle in the phrase. Okay, that's why it's called phrase match, because as long as it's in the phrase, we can appear. And if you are interested in targeting, and again, I'm going to give you actually a specific strategy for this later on, which will help you know kind of what match type to use. Again, it's ultimately dependent on your goals. But if you want to target a specific keyword as phrase match, then what you'll do is you'll enter the keyword with quotation marks both before and after the keyword, like I've shown you right here in the symbol column. So again, exact match. And I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I'm doing this because a lot of people are tripped up by this and want me to do this. Exact match is you only want to show up for the exact keyword, period. That's it. And if you want to do that, and if that's the case, you want to make sure that when you're entering that keyword, you have a bracket in front and behind the keyword when you enter it in the advertising platform, which I'll show you how to do later. If you want to show up for a phrase that has a specific keyword in that phrase, then you'll want to use phrase match, and you'll use phrase match by including quotation marks both before and after the keyword when you enter into the advertising console. And then lastly, this will kind of hopefully make sense of everything, we have the broad match type. Okay, so with broad match, Pinterest essentially can show your advertisement or show your promoted pin to loosely related search queries and loosely related keywords that people type into the search bar. Okay, what do I mean by loosely related? Well, here's just some examples. And again, there's a reason this is called broad, because your reach is more broad than any of the other options. You can kind of think about it that way. So in this case, if you just type in the word canoe paddle, let's just say, and this is what a lot of new advertisers do, and it's a mistake that they make, because they think that when they enter the word canoe paddle to target, that they only target canoe paddle. But as you can see here in the symbol column, for broad match, there are no characters, there are no special symbols before or after the keyword, which in my view is a little bit sneaky of Pinterest. Google does the same thing, and some other advertising platforms do as well. This means that you're eligible to show up for a very wide variety of loosely related keywords. This can be advantageous, but this also gives you the least control over kind of your because you can show up for keywords that you don't have control for. Some examples are, you target canoe paddle as broad match. You can show up for the term canoe paddle, but you can also show up for terms like kayak paddle or canoe equipment, or even outdoor, canoe gear, maybe, right? Loosely related to canoe paddle, and Pinterest decides what is loosely related or not. So I can't necessarily give you an exact list. Where with exact match, you can show up for that exact keyword. With phrase match, you only specifically show up for phrases that have the keyword in it. And then with broad match, you can appear for search queries that are broadly related to the keyword that you're targeting. Okay. So broad match, the benefit of broad match is that it can give you some more reach. So for example, if you want to collect a lot of keywords to get more keyword data for, then broad match may be a good option for you because you can essentially find or discover new profitable keywords that you weren't aware of because with broad match, it gives you the most reach. It's kind of like casting a wide net, but at the same time, it gives you less control. So the positive of broad match is more reach. The negative side is less control, which might mean less profit. Okay. The benefit with exact match is the most control. It's very, very controlled. You're only targeting very, very specific keywords. But the downside is that if you only have a few keywords, right, you might have very limited reach, where broad match kind of gives you more reach. So again, you can use multiple keywords, keyword match types. You can use one, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later with some of the strategies that I lay out specifically. I'll tell you kind of what match types would work best. But really, it's kind of knowing this as a tool, and there's not one match type that's the best. It completely depends on your objectives. So depending on your objective, broad match could be the best. In another case, exact could be the best, or phrase could be the best. It completely depends, but I'll have more videos about that specifically. Again, exact is the most controlled. Broad gives you the most reach, and then phrase is kind of a mix in between those. So that kind of covers match types. Likely might be the most complicated section that we kind of cover here in this module, or hopefully it is. Hopefully nothing's more complicated than this. So if you do have questions, let me know in the comment section, or in the Q&A section below, and we'll go get into the next video where we cover negative match type.